Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the High Performance Health Podcast with Chris, myself, David, and we have one of our members, Shridhar, joining us today. Now, Shridhar, I believe you joined the program in June of last year.
Right.
One of the reasons we wanted to bring you on to the podcast as well, and I think it's a real, I was using the word earlier, blank canvas. I've been a coach for 20 years, and I don't think I've ever worked with anybody who had zero kind of gym training experience, which I think is absolutely fantastic, to come in really as a moldable piece of clay. So my first question, sort of just to start it off, would be, let's start from the beginning. What sort of brought you to the program? What were your thoughts before joining the program, and what success have you seen for the last sort of 10 months since working with David?
Yeah. Yeah. So, first of all, thank you. It's been a great experience working with David. He has been very supportive in the program, and very much, anytime you ask anything, it's like I get it. um, but let me give you a little bit of a background of myself so that I can set the context of what my journey was. I've been in the industry for about 30 years. This was my 30th year in the IT industry, and typically, as as we grow up in our career, things become very sedentary in life. The good part of it is you start moving in your career ahead and, rise to a level. But then that comes along with a lot of, unwanted things. Let me put it that way now. Um, and we don't pay attention, right? And just a little bit of a very quick background. I was never an individual player. I always believed in playing team sports, and that's what my motivation used to be. Was a great cricket player, as many of you would appreciate coming from different parts of the world. So I used to take that as my, only way to kind of exercise, right? But cricket took a lot of time. I used to play really good level of cricket, so it used to take a lot of time, and I couldn't devote that amount of time. Then I said, okay, I moved into sales. I said, what better to build relationship than play golf? Then started playing golf, and that also took a lot of time. It used to take almost Saturday and Sunday half a day. And growing up in the career with the family and everything, I said, okay, let me now switch to something else. Then I switched to tennis, which was like 2 hours, 2.5 hours. But as all this was going through, I was seeing that a lot of changes in the body in terms of not feeling well, getting sick, increasing in weight, and all sorts of things, right? Never consistent in terms of getting things done. In terms of the gym itself, it is actually phenomenal what I have achieved in the last 9 months. I take a lot of pride in that, and also thanks to the high performance health program, because I tried, I was traveling quite a bit, going to the hotels. Every hotel had a great gym. I had an access to a great gym nearby. But every time I go there, I tried my best in terms of, getting onto a treadmill, initially putting on something that I love, then went on to an iPad, watching serial that I like, but never could get onto a individual way of doing things, right? And weights, I hated weights. I always felt that I'll hurt myself and, would never be able to do it. So yeah, and last 9 months, I am now, if I don't go to a gym for a day, I miss it, and I feel really bad at the end of the day that I have not gone to the gym. So that's been my journey.
Yeah, that sounds great. David, from the beginning, how have you progressed Shridhar's program from being kind of an absolute novice to where you are now? Was it super simple body weight stuff to start with? Talk us through kind of that journey in terms of how you built that up and where you currently are as well now.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure to work with Sridhar because we've seen the development, and it's kind of the unmeasurable side of our job that we see kind of people changing their habits. We can measure body fat, we can measure weight, everything else, but that kind of change habitually, we know that it's going to help someone long term. Sridhar had that sporting background, but like so many people who they may run marathons, they may play tennis, cycling, cricket, there's still kind of some of them don't do the strength training for bone mineral density, for flexibility, and for long-term health, and also to control sugar levels as well, and the importance of that. So I wanted to get Sridhar to do some of that strength training that's going to help so many of the health perimeters. but I didn't want to say, okay, we're going to go straight into the gym and we're going to do all this stuff. I said, your best weight to start with is your own body weight. And I think we had that discussion and we said the first phase, you've got some equipment indoors, very basic. We're just going to work on body weight. You're going to build up some confidence, I guess, that you can actually transport them exercises, the first phase, into a gym environment. We can then start to build a structure, and then you've got the confidence to go in, and then we can start building up from there. And that's exactly what he done. He just took to it duck to water. He just went straight from the easy body weight circuit style to a bit harder, then going into a gym, transporting them exercises over, and then gradually we've progressed to now Shridar's happy to go with barbells. He can do, all sorts of circuits. He can do lots of really difficult exercises that probably he wouldn't have even dreamed of when he first went into a hotel gym and saw it for the first time. So it's stages, and we just need to discuss it, communication. What's this exercise, David? How do we do it? And just building up that confidence, because ultimately it's all about helping Shredder become more healthier. And that strength, as we've discussed on so many podcasts, is so important for long-term health and well-being. But we know we've got to find ways for different individuals to be able to get to that level. And that was the journey that we done. And it's, as I say, it's been a pleasure because we've seen how he's now gone into a gym and can just literally do any exercise in a gym, which is great to see.
Yeah. Couldn't agree with you more, actually. I think gyms get quite a bit of a negative press in terms of how people feel walking in, feeling quite uncomfortable and self-conscious. So what kind of, for you stepping into a gym for a first time, what were your sort of biggest fears, in regards to being in a gym environment, or sort of misconceptions that maybe you had around sort of strength training and the gym culture that you were stepping into?
Yeah, James, that's a very good question because I think one part of it is the misconception, and second part of it is you have to be careful actually. At this age where I am, and initially started off with body weight, I was so excited that I'm able to do stuff, and David may recall this. Within 2-3 months, I was in Mexico, and I went to the gym, did my stuff, and I said, looks great. I bent down. I said, I'll lift a 70 pound with one hand and lifted it, and my back was ouch. And I realized that, it's very important to be taking it step by step, right? You go to the gym, some of the misconceptions and, some of the maybe a complex would be you see a much younger set of people doing a lot of stuff, right? When I saw for the first time, leg press being done by younger kids with so much of weight, right? And I went and did a 45, 90 pounds, and I was finding it difficult. And I said, okay, I have had my experience in Mexico. I'm not going to kind of strain myself. And I'll take it step by step. And happy to say that now I'm able to do about 320, 340 pounds on a machine assisted leg press, which is great. And I feel good. Sometimes I feel my back is a little stiff or, something. I go there and do it 1 or 2 times. I feel good about it, right? So I think from the misconception standpoint, it is always, people are doing it, you want to do it, but then will you be able to do it? And the one important factor in my journey, James and Chris and David knows about it, is while I had a weight problem, but I did not have a major weight problem, right?
Yeah.
I was right at the borderline of BMI. So as to say, I did want to reduce it, and I have reduced it, but I wouldn't say I have significantly reduced it, but I'm okay with it, right? I'm not kind of on a big that part of it. So I also tried multiple things. For example, the reason gym is helping me and I'm seeing the results is I tried keto for about 1 year. Worked great for me. It's a beautiful way of kind of toning yourself down, but it was not sustainable. And what I see now with the intake of carbs and proteins and fats and the combination with gym is a lot better, sustainable way of doing things rather than just kind of picking up one thing and not able to sustain it. So I would say that for the people, progress it the way David kind of streamlined that program, right? Starting from body weight and then slowly increasing the weight level to a level that you are comfortable with. As I said, it's a great way of progressing. And, I did one misstep, I know, but that was a learning. And I was hearing that day on one of the other podcasts, or somebody said, James, I don't know if it was you or Andrew said, it's better to, in a nicer way, it's better to kind of get hurt rather than not getting hurt and not doing anything, right? To know that, yeah, you are going to gym, there will be certain situations, but manage it. So that is much better as compared to not doing anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we kind of move on, Chris, did you have anything that you wanted to kind of jump in on
Yeah,
before I kind of take over?
of course, yeah. It's a pleasure to meet you, Shatar, and thanks for taking the time. I'm always curious, especially with someone at your level who's come so far. Um, what is something in your daily life that's suddenly become easier now that you're fitter and stronger, like something you maybe used to dread, like for example, running up a flight of stairs and maybe feeling a bit winded, whereas now you might be skipping up the stairs.
Yeah, one of the things I find myself is I don't know, if it is a measurable thing or a non-measurable thing. I feel a lot better mentally, right? I feel good. And after going to gym again, I was never a fan of running. When David built into the program a 15-minute, a 30-minute, and then now a 45-minute of running, it's almost like if you don't run it, I started feeling like now it's an addiction, right? You want to do it. It is hard for me 45 minutes, but at the end of the 45 minutes, I feel really good about it. To answer your question, Chris, one is I think mentally I feel a lot better. I think I'm in a much better shape, from a body standpoint in terms of toning rather than weight, right? I feel good. And yeah, I think, the day is much better. And, overall, um, I don't know if I have noticed I'm able to do better flights, but I'm taking longer walks. I was always a fan of walking, but as this program got built in, started parking much further. Even though if I go with my family, they don't like it. They want it much closer. But I will park the farthest and try to walk back in. I do a lot of conference calls nowadays walking where I don't need to be on a video or I'm not running a presentation. So those kind of things, and I'm sure I'm kind of feeling a lot better as compared to before. That whole letharginess and the tiredness, that is gone in a big way.
Yeah,
Sridhar does an incredible amount of steps, by the way. I mean, when we done that 30,000 challenge at the end of, I think, the year,
31st
I
of
knew
December.
Sridhar had no problem in doing it because he does that usually anyway. And it's
That
a
was
lot as
almost
well.
like,
It's brilliant. It's great.
yeah, that was a challenge I took personally. Actually, all the 31 days of completion, I said I got to do it on the 31st. You won't believe it what I did. I got up at 5:30 a.m. I planned my day. I knew on the 31st night there would be some, parties and stuff like that. My goal was to complete 30,000 steps by 6 or 6:30 p.m. I did 18,000 steps by 8:30 a.m. I was
Wow.
already at close to 25,000 steps at lunch. By 3:30 p.m., I was at 32,000 steps. Ended, I think, 37,000 or 38,000
Yeah, it
by
was a
the end
huge
of the
amount.
day.
It was great. Yeah, it was great. It was good to see. Yeah, but it was predictable as well. I knew you'd smashed that out of the water. So it's good that you've continued that aspect of your well-being as well as implementing the new strength training into it, because now you've got more of a holistic way of training where you do your cardio, you do a bit more high intense. We do our strength, but also that walking is still so good for your health and your mental well-being as well. So it's great that you've kind of incorporated everything together into one.
I think as well, when we talk about non-exercise activity so much, it's, neat gets banded around so much in the industry that we're in. And when you look at your total daily energy expenditure and 70% comes just from your BMR, which we call resting energy expenditure. When we look at that 30% that you can control, 15% of that 30% is non-exercise activity. So hearing somebody, it's those little micro habits, and we touched on this on a podcast a couple of weeks ago that I was on, I think with you two, where we were discussing, that stacking the micro habits like parking further away just to add on. And people tend to, I think, go, what's the point in going for a 15-minute walk? What's it going to achieve? I'm like, nothing. But if you do it 1,000 days back to back, 500 days back to back, 300 days back to back, that compound amount of extra walking that you're doing over a year, 2 years, 3 years can lead to some real significant health benefits. And that's one thing where I personally see, I don't know about you two guys, people fall down. They go to the gym, they go, but I'm training 4 days a week. So yeah, but then you're just getting 2,000 steps a day, and you're just not being physically active throughout the day. Um, so how specifically then did David help you sort of build your confidence and also your competence, sort of especially right in the very beginning of the training program?
Yeah, so multiple things. To give a little bit more background, I am a vegetarian.
Okay.
I don't eat meat. Egg is okay with me. And I'm a big fan of Indian food. So it's
So
hard
am
to
I.
stay away. It's hard to stay away from that food. And as you know, right, it's not easy with the combination of being vegetarian and Indian. One is the carbs are higher, and second is the proteins are lower. To an extent, I compensate it with my intake of eggs. So, you know, I told all of this to David. David created a very, very customized program for me in terms of not just building up the weights in terms of the body weight to start with, in terms of the food habits, what do you eat, and he created a calendar for every day as to what combinations you can eat. And from what I found it very, very good, even though I can Google it, but I always had somebody like a David, whom I can ask, and he will respond very quickly. I did experiment with the whey proteins, the Isopure. So Isopure, I love it, but it started. It didn't create any problems per se, but for 2 hours, it was like almost a strange feeling in the stomach, right? Nothing more than that, right? So then I asked David, and he suggested certain other changes in terms of other plant-based proteins that I can try. So which I tried, and I'm not fully into it, but I that worked well, right? Um, and yes, any time of the day, any time asking for changes in coaching. As David knows, I travel extensively, to different locations, not just domestically, but internationally. It becomes very difficult in terms of sometimes the schedule and, the discussions with David, but David has been fantastic in terms of rescheduling those things, or sometimes kind of just recording a voice recording and giving me certain tips in terms of what I need to do. So that way it's been a great journey in terms of having David by my side.
That's excellent. And David, question for you as well. We talk about protein being kind of our primary focus on this program for people looking to build muscle and to achieve muscle protein synthesis. How do you go about making sure that Shridar's hitting those protein targets kind of on a daily basis? And for any other vegetarian people listening to that, what kind of advice would you give them, and ways that they can achieve that sort of 0.5 grams per pound of body weight?
Yeah, I mean, with Shridar, we could have eggs. So he's not strict vegan; he was vegetarian. So that again, being a very complete protein, gave us a good opportunity. The supplement side wanted to try and get in as much protein as we can throughout the day. And if Shridar's traveling a lot, then the plant-based protein has got a good combination of amino acids. So that was always going to be a good option. What we needed to find though is one that's easily digestible for Sridhar, because he had a few issues with a few of the shakes. So we just wanted to find something that felt good, gave him some good complete protein, and then he can have his eggs throughout the day and other beans and pulses for the rest of the day to get a good complete mixture. But what I'd say to any vegetarian watching is just try and get different combinations of different proteins within your diet as best you can. Different types of beans. supplementation, protein bars. If you're traveling a lot, then having some sort of protein supplement regularly would be something I'd definitely be looking into that works for you, because everyone's slightly different with their digestion. So that's important. But with Sridhar, getting eggs, very good. Soya, tofu, another great option because again, it's a complete protein, so it's got good amino acids, and that's what you want to be looking at.
Yeah. Quick question actually for you as well, because it's actually something that I've never kind of dived into. But from like a branch chain amino acid like isoleucine, leucine, and valine specifically, do you think you're getting enough from a vegetarian protein source?
I think if you look at the top end in athletic performance, there's still vegetarians that have reached a high level. I think you're putting it at
Yeah.
risk. Um, the safety net's a lot bigger if you're able to eat meat, but you've got to get it right. And I
Yeah.
think it just narrows the chance of getting it right. And that goes back to the complete protein. Leucine is particularly important because it's predominantly from dairy. But then if you supplement in the correct way, you can get leucine in whey supplementation, and then that's fine. So it's about kind of getting the balance right. For the general population who are not vegetarian, you would say kind of try and get eggs in, maybe some dairy, non-fat, low-fat dairy, and then maybe get some animal sources in and try and kind of balance them throughout the day. For vegetarian, you've got to try and get beans, pulses, maybe some tofu, maybe if eggs, if you can take them, maybe some supplementation on top. So you're trying to get it. But it is a more difficult challenge, I would say, but not impossible. It's not
Yeah.
impossible.
Okay. That's interesting to know. Um, my next question, Sridhar, as well, would be if someone were listening to this that were kind of in your situation, um, June, where you were June of last year, unsure, intimidated, feeling nervous, what advice would you give to them? What advice would you have liked perhaps somebody to have given to you, maybe let's say in May last year, in terms of coming on a health journey like this and stepping into the gym?
Yeah, and I think there'll be many out there who would be like me. And I always, one is resisted weight training, gym, or of that kind. Second is I always felt I can do my research and do my stuff, and nothing out of arrogance, but it is just that, hey, what's the big deal? Look at YouTube, look at Google, find out ways and means to do it. But honestly speaking, it never worked. So my humble advice to anybody would be to have a personal coach, right? In fact, I even tried, for example, when I was playing tennis, I took a membership at a very expensive gym that used to provide indoor tennis because I wanted that weekend for me where I can get a tennis court. It's very difficult here to get a tennis court otherwise. And I only had weekends. So I took a very expensive gym membership just because I can get a indoor tennis court that I can book. 2 years, I was paying a lot of money. Not even once I entered the gym, even though I played tennis, but never entered, and world-class equipments. But I think what changed is, in a big way, I don't know why I did it. Let me put it this way. And I was on LinkedIn. I saw this high performance stuff. I clicked on it, had a call, and it's that just on that moment, I felt I should do it. Right. And it's an immense help to have somebody who's there, almost like telling you what to do, what not to do. Are you feeling okay? Is this working? Is this not working? I think that's a big help, right? Even though you've got so many tools at your disposal. And I will say this, James, and this is based on my own readings and my own hypothesis. If we were able to do everything that what is getting said in the internet and all the good videos and everything, why are people not getting better, right? I can read all the stuff and get better. What it comes to, what I realized even after doing keto and everything, is a matter of discipline, right? And that discipline and that motivation is extremely important, right? Somebody being telling you, hey, do this, do this, do this. And I told this to David that I wouldn't mind if you scold me and tell me, hey, you're not doing this right. Right? It's almost somebody like a teacher or a mom saying, hey, get this done, right? So I think that's a big step in my view, because having that discipline every day, getting up in the morning and looking at the high performance stuff other than your work emails and saying, hey, what is it in it for me for the day? Oh, I have to complete these two things. One is mobility and the set of routines, right? Either going to gym or whatever combination of things. So that has been an immense help, and I would advise that for everyone, right? At least take that, try it, because that motivation and discipline doesn't, self-motivation is a big thing, right? If everybody was able to do it, I think we would have no issues. But I think having a coach by your side is a very good thing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think everybody at some level needs that that accountability coach. I think if you're not being provided with a daily checklist of things that you need to achieve on that day, unmonitored accountability falls off very, very, very quickly. I've got one more question for Shraddha, but David, Chris, did you guys have anything else that you wanted to just, we've got about 5 or 6 minutes left of the pod if you guys wanted to dive in with anything else.
Just a quick one for me. I was just wondering what's your favorite thing that David programs and your least favorite thing?
Ah, so I like certain things and I don't like certain things, not related to David, but it is to do with some of the. David has been very flexible in changing certain things that I don't like. For example, I don't like push-ups, at all. And I've figured out that I'm good here, but my elbows are not so great, maybe, right? I hate push-ups. And I hate the burpees.
I knew you were going to say that.
and whenever I see these challenges that come in the way, and there is a burpee, there is push-ups, and I am like, oh, no, 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 no. But what I loved is when I had that back problem, Chris, in Mexico, David gave me certain things, right? And back has always been a concern for me from time to time, maybe because of just sitting and driving and all sorts of things. The lower back specifically, David gave me some exercises which was actually absolutely fantastic. And lying on the bed and raising your leg, right, and that was like superb. It helped me immensely in terms of fixing that. And I love the mobility as part of everyday this thing. That's the part I really really love, the mobility exercises, because I never thought, and I would have never imagined, and even would have ridiculed some of my friends even before playing tennis. They do a warm up. I never do it. I always said, what's the big deal, right? And they're like, no, you'll enjoy yourself and all of that. I said, okay, we'll see. But I think this mobility, even though initially I thought, hey, that's like 7 to 8 minutes, let me hit the gym first. That has helped me immensely. Now I understand, the concept of getting warmed up and making the body flexible before you do something a little better, right? Other than that, I think, yeah, some of those things, David intervened time to time and gave me coaching. As I said, certain things I don't like it, and I tell David, and and even some of those exercises, like, and maybe I have to blame James. James does that a lot, like this one, and with the weight and all of that. I don't know if I see James in those videos, but yeah, these lateral movements, I get a little pain here, but David has given me some suggestions on doing certain things. Otherwise, it's been fantastic. That's one thing which is very important, right? Where you feel uncomfortable and then you're able to quickly modify it. Somebody, able to tell what needs to be done, has been immensely helpful.
I think the mobility stuff for me is the most important thing that you'll do in the gym. And it's something that I live and die by. I really do with any of my clients that I've been working in a gym or online. If you don't have access to that range of motion, that you're more likely to end up injuring yourself because the body will always take the path of least resistance. So the mobility stuff for me is kind of what I would say the meat and veg of any workout. David, final thoughts from you, my friend.
Yeah, I agree with the mobility. I remember when me and James, when I first jumped on the program and first become a coach on here, we James always puts the mobility as a separate session, and I like the idea of that as well. And you notice that you kind of put it as a separate session because it just means people are not going to miss it out. They have to tick it off to do it. Just that accountability side, and also with mobility, of course, the range of motion when you're doing an exercise is so important as well. So just instilling that into people as well, because you should come out of the gym more mobile than when you went into it, for sure. And just getting that range of motion is key. But no, it's been a pleasure working with Sridhar. Long may it continue. It's been absolutely great. Really enjoy it. We have great discussions away from it as well, at training like Formula One and things like that. And your long walk around the Barcelona and things like that to find the circuit. And it's been good, really, really good. It's been a pleasure to help you on your journey.
Just
Yeah, thank you,
to
David. David, you should explain that sometime to maybe James and Chris and Andrew about my journey in Barcelona. I got my steps 29,000, but it was one of those craziest moments that happened.
just to segue on that, this is going to be very random, but two of my neighbors are both engineers in Formula One. If you're a Formula One fan, one's the chief engineer for Williams, and one designs the wings for Alpine, and he's actually just got a promotion to Aston Martin. So randomly, I live in a place that has two Formula One engineers, two doors down from me. Um, Sridhar, final question for me. What's next for you? Sort of any goals that you guys are particularly that you're working towards? Where do you see yourself sort of in another 12 months?
So, one is I want to sustain and continue this, right? It's been a great momentum. As I said, I feel bad if I don't go to a gym on a day. Even those days where, for example, today I have a limited set of things. Yesterday was almost a rest day and eat protein. There is an itchingness to go to gym. I did go to gym, it's and it was 10 minutes, I just kind of did a little bit of a walk. So I want to continue to sustain that, right? And that is one goal. Second is, if I'm able to go get my food right, that is something that I need to work on, and it's personal on me to make sure that there are certain days where the carbs go up and stuff like that. I want to get into a more, regimented way of aligning the protein to the carb to the fat ratios, right? That is something that I would love to do in the next 12 months. And I don't know, maybe I always, have this goal and aim of having six packs. Looking at you guys, maybe one day. So,
That's a miserable existence, having a being that lean. I'm sure we've all been there. That's a miserable existence. You definitely don't want to do that. Um, we're out of time, Shredder. I just wanted to say thank you for jumping on. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much, guys, for joining, and thank you, David, for getting Shredder on as well. I think that'll be really helpful for people that are listening, the guys on the program, our current members as well, to see where everybody's journey comes from and where everybody is heading. So thank you so much, guys. I will hit stop record.